The courtroom buzzed with restless energy. Reporters scribbled furiously, their cameras poised for the next dramatic moment. Spectators murmured, exchanging glances between the defendant and the judge. The fluorescent lights above cast a harsh glow over everything, turning the wood-paneled walls into something colder, something unwelcoming. Judge Leonard Kavanaugh adjusted his glasses and sighed. He had seen this 100 times before. Another teenager in an oversized suit, caught in a bad decision, about to learn the hard way that the law didn't bend for youthful mistakes. He glanced at the file in front of him. Malcolm Hayes, age 19, charged with grand theft auto and resisting arrest. The evidence seemed solid. Caught behind the wheel of a stolen 2022 BMW M5. Fled from the police. Fingerprints on the steering wheel. An open and shut case. Prosecutor Stephen Langford stood, his navy blue suit crisp, his voice smooth with practiced confidence. Your Honor, the state is prepared to proceed. He turned slightly, offering the jury a reassuring nod. The facts in this case are undeniable. Kavanaugh barely listened. He knew Langford's type, sharp, ambitious, eager for a quick conviction. Beside Malcolm sat Lisa Thornton, a public defender who looked more interested in the watch on her wrist than the case in front of her. She hadn't uttered a word since the hearing started. Judge Kavanaugh exhaled and turned his gaze to Malcolm. The kid sat straight-backed, hands clasped in front of him. His expression wasn't scared. He didn't fidget. He didn't shrink under the weight of the charges. He was watching, calculating. Mr. Hayes, the judge began, folding his hands together. Do you understand the charges against you? Yes, Your Honor. His voice was steady, almost too steady. And do you understand that you have a right to legal counsel? A pause. Then, I'll represent myself. The room fell silent. Lisa Thornton blinked, finally looking at Malcolm. Langford stiffened, surprised. A 19-year-old defending himself in a felony trial? Judge Kavanaugh leaned forward, studying him. Are you sure about that? Yes, Your Honor. Another pause. Then Kavanaugh sighed, rubbing his temple. Very well. Langford recovered quickly, smoothing down his tie. If the defendant insists on making this more difficult for himself, the prosecution won't object. He turned to the jury, smiling like a salesman closing a deal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a straightforward case. On March 4th, at approximately 11:37 p.m., Officer Daniel Ruiz observed a black BMW M5 speeding through a residential neighborhood. When he activated his lights, the vehicle accelerated. The driver, Malcolm Hayes, abandoned the car and attempted to flee on foot. He was apprehended shortly after. Langford turned, pointing toward Malcolm. The defendant's fingerprints were found on the steering wheel and gear shift. The car was reported stolen earlier that evening. The evidence is overwhelming. He stepped back, confident. Judge Kavanaugh turned to Malcolm. Your opening statement? Malcolm stood, buttoning his jacket. He met the jury's eyes, scanning each of them with measured precision. With all due respect, Your Honor, he said, his voice even controlled, the prosecution's case isn't as solid as it seems. Murmurs rippled through the room. Langford frowned. Malcolm continued. The state says I was driving the stolen car. They claim I fled the scene. They claim my fingerprints are proof of guilt. A pause. Then he stepped forward, his voice sharp. But what if I told you their case is built on a lie? Officer Ruiz was a stocky man with a shaved head and a thick mustache. He sat stiffly in the witness chair, shoulders squared, eyes hard. He had testified before many times. Langford approached, his tone firm. Officer Ruiz, can you confirm that you pursued the suspect on the night of March 4th? Yes. And can you identify the suspect in this courtroom? Ruiz pointed at Malcolm without hesitation. That's him. Langford nodded. Tell the court what happened. Ruiz adjusted his posture. I was on patrol when I saw the BMW M5 blow through a stop sign. When I turned on my lights, the car took off. I chased it for 3 blocks before it stopped abruptly. The driver, this defendant, jumped out and ran. Langford paced. And what happened next? I pursued on foot. He cut through an alley, but I caught up to him. He resisted, but I managed to get him in cuffs. Langford smiled, turning to the jury. No further questions. Judge Kavanaugh nodded. Mr. Hayes, your witness. Malcolm stood. He walked slowly, deliberately toward the officer. Then he tilted his head. You said I ran through an alley? Yes. Which alley? Ruiz blinked. The one off Maple Avenue. Malcolm nodded. And you caught me where? Behind the liquor store. A beat. Malcolm reached into the file in front of him. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Exhibit B, GPS records from Officer Ruiz's patrol car. Langford's expression tightened. Malcolm continued. These records show Officer Ruiz's vehicle was parked at an intersection 3 blocks away at the time of my arrest. He never pursued me on foot. The room stiffened. Judge Kavanaugh leaned forward. Officer Ruiz, is this true? Ruiz shifted in his seat. There may be a discrepancy in the time stamps, but... Malcolm cut in. Or maybe you never saw me in that car at all. Langford objected. Speculation. Sustained, Kavanaugh said, but his tone had changed. Malcolm turned back to the officer. You claim I was driving, but where's the dashcam footage? Ruiz hesitated. There was a malfunction. Silence. Malcolm nodded, as if he expected that answer. Then he turned toward the jury. No footage. A patrol car parked 3 blocks away, and a witness who suddenly can't remember key details. He let that sink in. Then he dropped the bombshell. Your Honor, I call Mr. William Adler to the stand. Langford froze. Judge Kavanaugh frowned. Who? The owner of the BMW M5. William Adler was a businessman in his late 40s. He adjusted his tie as he took the stand, casting a quick glance at Malcolm. Langford looked like he'd swallowed glass. He stood quickly. Your Honor, we were not informed of this witness. Malcolm spoke smoothly. I found him myself. Judge Kavanaugh sighed. Proceed. Malcolm stepped forward. Mr. Adler, you reported your car stolen? Yes. And do you know who stole it? Adler hesitated. Langford's jaw tightened. Adler cleared his throat. I told the police that night that I saw the thief. Murmurs spread through the courtroom. Judge Kavanaugh raised an eyebrow. And? Adler exhaled. It wasn't him. The room erupted. Langford slammed his hand on the table. Objection. Irrelevant. Malcolm's voice sliced through the noise. The witness just testified that I wasn't the one who stole the car. Langford gritted his teeth. Who did? Adler swallowed hard. A white male. About 6 feet tall. He had a tattoo on his left arm. Silence. Malcolm stood still. Langford's face turned pale. Judge Kavanaugh looked between them. Then finally he spoke. This court will take a recess. His gavel came down. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Malcolm sat back in his chair, expression unreadable. But one thing was certain. The case was far from over. And Malcolm Hayes wasn't finished yet. The courtroom was in chaos. Gasps filled the air. Spectators whispered in frantic voices. Reporters scribbled in their notepads. Judge Kavanaugh's gavel slammed down. Order! His voice cut through the noise, but the energy in the room refused to settle. Malcolm Hayes sat motionless, watching. His expression was unreadable, but inside, his mind was racing. William Adler's words still echoed in the courtroom. It wasn't him. Langford, the prosecutor, had gone pale. He flipped through his notes as if searching for something, anything, to regain control. His case was unraveling. Judge Kavanaugh exhaled. His eyes bore into Langford. Mr. Langford, did the police ever document Mr. Adler's claim that the suspect was a white male with a tattoo? Langford hesitated. Your Honor, we were working with the evidence we had at the time. That's not what I asked. Kavanaugh's tone was razor sharp. Langford's mouth opened, then shut. Silence. Then Malcolm spoke. Your Honor, I'd like to request the official police report on the night of my arrest. Langford shot up. Objection. The report is already part of the evidence. Malcolm met his gaze. Not the report you filed. The original report. Another beat of silence. Judge Kavanaugh turned to Langford. Is there a discrepancy between reports? Langford's fingers clenched. Then, Your Honor, I need a recess. The tension spiked. Judge Kavanaugh's face darkened. Denied. He turned to the bailiff. Retrieve the original police report. Now. Langford's jaw tightened. His confidence had cracked. Something was wrong. Something bigger than Malcolm had realized. 30 minutes later, the bailiff returned. He handed Judge Kavanaugh a thick file. The judge flipped through it, his brows furrowing deeper with every page. Malcolm stood still, waiting. He had played his cards right so far. But this was something new. Kavanaugh's hands tightened around the paper. Mr. Langford. His voice was dangerously low. Why is there an entirely different description of the suspect in this report? Langford was silent. Judge Kavanaugh lifted the document. His eyes flicked to Malcolm. According to the original police report, the suspect was described as a white male, mid-20s, with a tattoo on his left forearm. A slow murmur spread through the crowd. Malcolm didn't move. Judge Kavanaugh continued. And yet, somewhere between that night and this trial, the report changed. Suddenly, the suspect became an African-American male, age 19. Langford swallowed. Judge Kavanaugh's voice dropped. Explain this. Langford cleared his throat. Your Honor, the initial report may have contained errors. Officers often work under high-pressure conditions. Mistakes happen. Mistakes? Malcolm's voice cut through the room. Or cover-ups? Langford's eyes flickered. That's an outrageous claim. Malcolm turned to the jury. Is it? Officer Ruiz's testimony was already full of inconsistencies. The GPS records showed he wasn't even near my arrest. And now, the original police report names someone else entirely as the suspect. Silence. Then Malcolm dropped the hammer. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce new evidence. Judge Kavanaugh raised an eyebrow. Go on. Malcolm reached into his file and pulled out a printout. He held it up for the court. This is surveillance footage from a traffic camera on Maple Avenue, the same street where the car was stolen. Langford stiffened. Malcolm continued. The footage was taken at exactly 11:30 p.m., 7 minutes before Officer Ruiz claimed he saw me driving. He turned toward the judge. This footage shows a man getting into the stolen BMW. Judge Kavanaugh leaned forward. And? Malcolm took a slow breath. The man in the footage isn't me. Gasps filled the courtroom. Langford's face drained of color. Judge Kavanaugh's voice was deadly calm. Who is it? Malcolm stepped toward the screen as the bailiff loaded the footage. Then, the image flickered to life. A man stepped into the BMW. He was tall, white, a tattoo visible on his left arm. The courtroom erupted. Judge Kavanaugh's gavel slammed down. Order, order. But the chaos had already swallowed the room whole. Langford was frantic. He rushed to the prosecution's table, whispering furiously with Officer Ruiz. Ruiz looked rattled. He shook his head. Malcolm watched them carefully. They were losing control. Judge Kavanaugh turned to Langford. Prosecution, do you have an explanation for this? Langford hesitated. Your Honor, I was not made aware of this footage. Malcolm's lips curled slightly. Really? Because I requested it 3 weeks ago. It was mysteriously unavailable at the time. Kavanaugh's gaze turned to Langford. Is that true? Langford fumbled. I can't confirm that. Malcolm wasn't done. He turned to Ruiz. Officer, you swore under oath that you saw me behind the wheel of that car. Ruiz shifted in his seat. I thought I did. Langford shot him a sharp look, but it was too late. Malcolm stepped closer. Or did someone tell you to say that? Ruiz's face twitched. Then, a slow, almost suffocating silence. Ruiz exhaled sharply. His hands gripped the witness stand. He wouldn't look at Langford. Then finally, I was told to change my report. The room exploded. Judge Kavanaugh's expression darkened. By who? Ruiz's mouth opened, then closed. His breathing was shallow. Langford stood abruptly. Your Honor, I'd like to move for a mistrial. Malcolm's head snapped toward him. You what? Langford's voice was rushed, desperate. This trial has been compromised. This new evidence, these allegations, it's all too much. I motion for a mistrial and... No. Judge Kavanaugh's voice was sharp. Final. He turned to Ruiz. You are under oath. Who told you to change your report? Ruiz hesitated. Then, his eyes flicked to Langford. A long, damning silence. Langford's face twisted in horror. Officer, don't. Ruiz's hands shook. His jaw tightened. Then, I was told by the prosecutor's office. Langford's face collapsed. You're lying. Ruiz exhaled. His shoulders sagged. You told me the suspect matched a different profile. You said it was an open and shut case. You said... He stopped. Langford's voice wavered. I never... Judge Kavanaugh stood. His face was unreadable. His voice was not. Enough. The courtroom fell silent. Kavanaugh turned to Langford. Mr. Langford, I will be recommending a formal investigation into prosecutorial misconduct. Langford's face twisted in panic. Your Honor, I said enough. Langford slumped into his chair. Judge Kavanaugh turned to Malcolm. The charges against you are dismissed. Malcolm exhaled. His hands unclenched. But he didn't feel relief. Not yet, because as he turned, he caught something. Langford was whispering to Ruiz. And for the first time, Ruiz's face was afraid. Something wasn't right. The case was over. But the real danger was just beginning.